And that first time they took cocaine, like they want to chase that high. They never get it again. They never can get that same one again, but they constantly keep going back to it, wanting to get that same high. I don't have personal experience in that shit, but in the 80s, that was the drug of choice. And we saw a lot of it. And it was in the movies, it was in culture, it was, that was the, the fashion drug at the time. Well, when you're trading and you get that high of a big win, that's a high that you want to get back almost limitlessly. Like you want, as soon as you got out of the trade, you're thinking, man, that was great. Let me go again. Like there's something in the chart that's going to give you that same 15 handle run again. It's done. Like you got to stop. So a lot of the things that I hear him talk about, whether he realizes it, is some of the things I've been talking about in my lectures. I'm using him as like a model to help coach. While I'm not actively saying I'm teaching him, I'm using the things that he's making public as a point of concern for himself or personal goals, or he's reflecting on what he feels he's done incorrectly and wishes he had a way to overcome it. I'm using that model of him and what he's focusing on or contending with. I'm using that in my lectures. So while I'm not drawing special attention, obviously now, but I'm not trying to say, look, I'm your mentor. Yeah, that's not what it is. I'm just trying to be a help. That's all. And hopefully, uh, by this real world person trying to do this, if you can learn from the advice I'm giving and say he doesn't take this in consideration and doesn't do anything with it or tries it and says it didn't work for me. Okay, that's fine. Somebody else that's listening to everything I'm doing might warm up to the idea and it fits them perfectly. It may be the very things that they've wrestled with and then now they figured out that thing that was a hindrance, the thing that was the problem, the rock in their shoe, if you will. They once they remove it, then they can walk, without a limp. They can get right to where they're going with no reason to feel like you're being impeded and slowed down. They won't have that fear of holding on to a trade. They won't have a fear of um, being stopped out because they know what they're looking for is going to repeat over and over and over again. And it's one thing to have a model that you think is good when you first start finding profitability. That might be a profitable model, but what tends to happen is you try to demand more than what the model can provide. And that's the reason why for me, I have to have different setups. I'm not comfortable accepting a one trick, one pony type thing. I can't, my mind won't let that happen, especially knowing what I know about price and how it delivers. I know there's a plethora of things that I can utilize to get into other setups. And I try to showcase that. And unfortunately, what that has done is created an insatiable desire for everyone else to do all those things too. And you're equating that is the only way of determining success with me. Or you're not a real ICT student unless you can do everything that I've ever taught about. And that's not true. All you need to be able to do is find one setup. And I've done my best, and I don't know how to do it any better than stripping it down to simply 5 handles. And I talked about in a Twitter space last week how that might not be. It sounds like someone just got shot, to be honest with you. Hang on one second. I'm in like Highlander down in Bel Air, but it just sounded like somebody just shot off 3 shots. There you go. Live and on the scene. Here's ICT reporting. I don't see nothing. As long as they ain't shoot at me, I'm good. I didn't see nothing. So you might go after those 5 handles. And like I'm teaching my son, Cameron, and what I've mentioned also in the Twitter spaces, that what happens if you're trying to start off as that 5 handle trader? And you're going to find that can be found a lot intraday. Lots of opportunities of that occurring. And you can be bias neutral, meaning you don't have to have the bias correct. So for the folks that are struggling with bias right now, I'm giving you a way to study and look for setups. And it's such a small range of movement and price. 5 handles is nothing. Like, it's literally nothing. But for you, it may not have probably seemed like worth it at all, because you hear other people saying, oh, ha, ha, 5 handles, you got a little dick. Yeah, no. 5 handles can change your entire life if you know how to find them consistently. High frequency algorithms are taking many times huge numbers of trades just to get less than 1 handle move. So who's fucking laughing? Okay. The clowns that have an ego problem and have a superiority complex and they have a small audience. That's the ones that are bitching and making up bullshit. So you shouldn't listen to those people anyway. But what happens if you're aiming for those 5 handles, but you don't have the confidence yet because you're new, and that's understandable, but you take it off when you get 3 handles. And you do that for months until you find that level of comfort doing it. Because some of it is going to be requiring you to do things longer than you think it's going to take right now. And when I just said that, what? Several months. And some of the trolls are snickering and laughing. He said do 3 handles for months, because this is hard for some people. It's scary. Like I had to overcome a lot just to get into trades in 1992. Like, it was scary after my first trade, which I impulsively just jumped in because I had to just do something. I felt like I had to do it. And if I could be honest for a second, it was much like when, maybe this doesn't make sense. I think I've talked about this before. My son Caleb said that he understands this perfectly, but it might be a byproduct of us having the same DNA too. But have you ever drove your car? And I promise we'll come back to the 3 handle and 5 handle. I promise we're going to go right back to that. But when we have episodes where you're driving, okay, just say I've experienced that. Or if you never experienced it, but you think it's fucking weird and funny, respond on Twitter too. That way I know everybody's awake still. But you ever drive your car on a bridge and start questioning yourself, what happens if I just jerk the wheel to the right really hard and just go off of it? Like, and did you ever feel that and begin to fear your body just doing it out of just like it's going to do it and you had no say in it, and fearing that your arm's just going to do it like a knee-jerk reaction, like a reflex? It sounds crazy to some people, but I promise you, in this audience, I guarantee you, some of you have experienced that. And you're thinking, man, I hope I don't drive off this bridge. You don't do it, but sometimes you start questioning, like, what happens if that happened? That would be embarrassing. No, you're going to fucking prison. Not prison, but you're going to the grave. And if you turn into a crowd of people, or do something like that into another car, you're going to injure somebody, then you're going to go to jail, right? Or die in the process. That moment when I got into my first trade in 1992, and I did that orange juice option, it was almost like that same feeling. Like, it felt like it was an overwhelming, I have to do something, and almost like I didn't have any control over it. Like, I literally was pushed subconsciously to make a dumb decision. And I know, looking backwards at that moment, how it was one of the most reckless and just careless decisions I've ever done with money. And obviously the outcome showed me that that was careless. I lost 50% of what I put up in the option, which was a lot of money to me back then. And I just closed the account immediately after that. I said, okay, send me my money. I wasn't ready. I was scared that I was going to do something like that again and lose the rest of it, right? So you might have those impulses where you're fearful of what you might do to yourself in trading. which is what I had. And I had to be conditioned to go in looking at the market from a different approach than just one entry technique. It feels too, in my opinion, because I wrestle with all this bullshit and obsessive compulsive disorder, it feels too myopic for me to know only one way of getting into a marketplace. In my opinion of a highly efficient trader, they should have more than one way to get in. And I felt if I didn't have that, I was not properly equipped to trade. So I wanted to have a repertoire of things. Because in my mindset was, I'll have a tool for whatever the fuck they bring to me. Whatever that market's going to do today, I will have a trade. Now, I can do that today, but admittedly, that was a dumb decision, which caused me to make a lot of tweaks and mess with stuff and blow accounts trying to make things happen when I didn't have any proof behind what it was I was trying to force as a trader when I first started. And for some, if you listen to me as a benchmark of 5 handles, you're starting from ground zero. So 5 handles is a huge win. If you just get that one time a week and you stop and you don't lose it, that's a good thing. That's good, especially if you're doing it with one mini contract. You're doing $1,250 a week. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? If you're doing it multiple times each week, you can build it up to that, 25 handles. But if you do it every single day, do that, you're going to get it that way. But if you just, right now, for instance, the folks that are in Africa, you are challenged financially right now. And in Nigeria, there's a whole lot of shit going on. If you made $250 a week, just a week, that's life-changing over there. And some of you have done the math on that thinking, man, I'm going to live a whole different lifestyle once this starts happening for me. But in the United States here, unfortunately, and this is not to talk down to anybody else in another country, but $250 doesn't even pay my fucking cable bill per month. So here we have a lot of expenses and we live lives that are really bloated with things that are just overpriced. And I'm not exempt to that. But these 5 handles can make a major dent, even with what I spend a month. I've already told you, $1,500, $1,300, $1,200 of groceries. And I have not my full family. My 3 older children, they have their own places. They're outside my house. And I still have to pay a lot of money. In my opinion, that's a lot of money for groceries. So I know that all of you that aren't making a lot of money right now, and you're making whatever your job pays, and you have your families, you have your bills, your ends to meet, and you have all this stuff going on around us that's causing shit to get really expensive, like really expensive. The car I just bought my son, Cameron, Nissan Sentra, $28,000. That car should never sell for $28,000. They wanted $29,800. That was the lowest they were going to go. And I said, I will never buy another car from this lot again unless I get it for $28,000. So naturally, they sold it for $28,000. So I know it's hard for everybody else because it irks me to see what they're making people pay for now. And going to the grocery store and seeing how much shit costs, it's nuts. So now bring that into the equation, trolls, and folks that are trying to learn how to do this. They've never done it before. You have to have a goal to reach that's realistic, that it's rewarding if you hit it. And now I give you what? You aim for the 5, but to give yourself confidence, as soon as you get 3, close it and watch and see how many times it goes to the 5. That's what I had to do to build my confidence to get into trades. I conditioned myself that way. Cameron's in the process of going through that. He's going to go through that same process of you're looking for 5. As soon as you get 3, you're going to close it and then watch it. Does it deliver the 5? How long does it take? How much drawdown did you experience from the point where you took off the 3 contracts? I'm sorry, the 3 handles in that one contract move. How much time did it take in drawdown before it went to the 5, or did it ever go there? Those things you keep a running log of. And you're going to be doing these multiple times intraday, which is why I'm telling you to get your $10,000 demo trade or demo account ready. Because I want you to be doing one mini, yes, with a $10,000 account, because I want you to see the effects of rushing in underfunded, but I'm going to show you how to correct the drawdown too. You're all going to create the drawdown because you're going to be doing things through ignorance. But I will teach you how to fix all that stuff and also how to fear getting in. I'm going to do the whole thing I did with myself and what I'm putting my sons through. You'll be able to accomplish beating that anxiety, that, performance anxiety is what it is. I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. I'm afraid it won't be like your trades are. I'm going to show you how to get past all that stuff. But for someone that's new, and I give them this model to start with, it's a looking glass. And it allows them to focus on what? Look for 5, be content with 3. And by conditioning themselves over and over again, intraday, using 1-minute charts, it gives them several opportunities per day to challenge themselves to have that experience. It's like a laboratory experiment. And you're going to be prompted to do that. And it's going to be viewed by the trolls as, oh, look at this, this is dumb. No, it's to help you become indifferent to the outcome, which is exactly what you need as a trader. When you put a trade on, you know that this is what your model says it should do. You also know that it's usually more times than not correct. So if it's more times correct than it's not, if it fails, it's not going to cause you to wig out. You're not going to say, oh, well, I'm going to have to jump on something else. This doesn't work anymore. You'll trust that this is a speed bump. That's all it is. It's not a roadblock. It's not a barrier. It's just something that didn't give you what you were wanting that time. Just like getting turned down on a Saturday night at the club. She's good looking, ain't she? Yeah, she is. You finally had the courage to go up there, and you went long on one contract trying to get 5, and you didn't get nothing. You got stopped out. As you said, I'm not interested. Sometimes the market's going to do that. Ladies, you're not exempt either. Sometimes it's just no. I hope he asks me out, and then you see his wife sit down next to him. Sometimes you're going to get full margin too. So by conditioning yourself, looking for something that's realistic and practical, 5 handles as a beginning, I think is reasonable. It's easy, in my opinion, but it's also powerful because if you can develop the confidence to see this repeating, you're going to see a whole lot of fucking setups. A lot. And you're not going to be fearful of missing anything. Why? How can you get to the point of ICT never fearing missing a move? Because I see them fucking coming at all angles all the time. There's a lot of them. The point is you have to find the ones that you like. I literally walked through on Thursday with the GDP number with my son. I said, look, here's something going to happen here. This is what's going to happen here. It was doing exactly what I said it was going to do. But I said, but I want to see the trade that goes up to the fair value gap. That's my trade. That's the one I want to do. But even though I'm calling it live right there in front of everyone that was listening to us, that's what it's like to be, well versed in this. You can see lots of 5-handle runs, up and down. And you're never going to be fearful, which means what? You're not going to be impulsive about getting any losing trade right away back. Just because I can see lots of trades and I can see them coming and I can engage on all of them. My experience has been when I've done that, I lose sight of where I am. And when the bigger moves come, because it's like a game after that. Like I'm like, okay, I did this one, I did that one, I did this one, I did that one. And I forgot, oh, I'm supposed to be looking for this.